Yeah.
Because one of the things, that I saw was, well, I hope the Christians are now going to start taking care of these women and doing things for these women. Okay. Well, do we support our pregnancy support center options now? Or are we expecting them just to get grants all the time? Do we support the Haven Battered Women's Shelter? Or do we just expect, well, they've got grants and they can take care of it themselves?
Austin with Into the Fray, and today I'm not here with Robbie, but I'm here with Miss Amy Griffin, and I'm gonna let you introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Amy Griffin. I'm the mom of 3 girls, and I'm the executive director of Lanier Family Connection in Lakeland.
Okay. All right. So have you always lived in Lakeland?
I grew up in Lakeland until I was about in 2nd grade. Then we moved a full 30 miles down the road to Adel.
Okay. Wow.
So I graduated high school from Cook High School and got married, moved away, and then got a divorce and moved back in 2009.
Okay.
So I've been in Lakeland since then.
All right. And then what made you get into Family Connections?
Well, I was actually, after my divorce and I moved back here, I was going back to school to teach.
Okay. Wow.
I have a degree in English, so I was going to go back and teach. I always wanted to teach high school. And actually, someone asked my mom about this job with Family Connection, and I read what it was about and what you would do, and I told her, I want that job. So she said, okay. So I interviewed for it. I love it.
How long have you been doing that?
Since 2010.
Okay.
So 12 years. July 1st was 12 years.
Okay, wow. Okay, cool. And then what is your role with the Family Connections? What do y'all do?
Well, we're a nonprofit, so I'm the director, but it's really, when people ask what we do, sometimes that's like the dreaded question because of trying to explain it in a way where they're like, I wish I'd have never asked. But for us, there's a Family Connection in every county, but not all are nonprofits. But we're nonprofits so that we can write grants, things like that. But we work on things in the area that are opportunities for your county. So the 2 things we do are family support, which mainly focuses on child abuse and neglect, substance abuse, mental health, things like that. And our other priority that we work on is literacy, early education. So getting your child ready to go to school.
Okay. So the thing that my mind immediately goes to is, I would imagine this is very stressful, and it could be a very a job that weighs down on you a lot. So how do you keep your spirits up when you're dealing with these very tragic situations sometimes?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and my answer is probably not going to be very good because I'm still working on that. And sometimes I just have to step away. I think at the beginning, I really had that mindset of just trying to myself help everybody. And so I have learned a lot about, hey, if people aren't going to help themselves, or at least be part of the process, I can't let that weigh me down so much. But the other thing is, with this job, you don't always get that or get to see. I guess now that I'm saying it out loud, it kind of goes along with being a Christian. Get to see at the end what happened. Yeah. You're working on this. You're really you're working on literacy, or you're trying to help this family be able to help themselves. And sometimes when these women get into our DFAC system, and we offer programs to help them, it's not fixable, if you want to use that term, within 2 to 3 weeks or 6 weeks or a month. It can be several years before you've even noticed a change. So sometimes that can really bring you down because you feel like you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
So the good thing is the people around you, your family. My family has to force me sometimes to, hey, step away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Step away. Sort of learn self-care.
Yeah. Is that like almost like a 24/7 job?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the beginning, and because we're in a small town, people know how to find me.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't blame
That.
people. I mean, you know, I'm so guilty of this. At 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, I think about something and message the person on Facebook or whatever. So I get a lot of that, and then sometimes that can be just people in the community that are like, hey, I got an idea, or hey, do you want me to donate? I can donate this or whatever. But families, they can do the same thing, because when they have a crisis, sometimes we're the only, or it's called like a natural support, but I know you, and I know you have a family, and you're in this church, so you have a church family. So if something happened to you, let's say you lost your job and you needed your power bill paid, you have people that will step up. Mm-hmm. Those are natural supports, your parents, your friends, your church family. We work with a lot of families who do not have that.
Yeah.
So when they have something happen, we'll be the ones they call.
Wow. Okay.
And that is very strange for us to think about, that they don't have that, but they don't.
Yeah.
It's the first question we ask, is who is your support?
Okay.
Like a family member, and most do not. They can't really understand what we're trying to ask them.
Okay. So then I imagine, like, yeah, that's like almost like the perfect job for a Christian, because
Mm-hmm.
you should be doing that stuff anyways. But then,
Well, I often, now we're a nonprofit, but my pay comes from a grant through the state of Georgia. So when I first got the job, after a while, I had the very same thought you just had in your mind. And I would jokingly say, when I would talk, if a church wanted me to speak or something like that I actually get paid to come tell you to do what Jesus has already told you to do.
yeah.
And not only do I get paid by the government to
Yeah.
come tell you to do what Jesus has already told you to do.
Yeah. Well, then that's a good transition, I think. Because, all right, so in today's episode, we're talking about abortion, and we want to tackle it from a different angle than how I think a lot of people in the church would try to tackle it. But I've been reading this book called Dominion by Tom Holland, and it takes you through like the history of Christianity, how it was formed, and like one of the things that's really stood out is how much the church was like active in like social work early on, and how like they were changing the Roman Empire and like taking the Roman Empire's job, because they seen the needs in the communities and they just ran after it. Like they're willing to die to take care of other people. And they were the hospital, they were the foster agency, they were adopting kids, they're doing so much, feeding the poor, taking care of widows and orphans. And it was challenging, because then you like read how the government would respond to them, and the government was like, thanks, you're like taking a load off of us. We don't have to worry about these people like littering in our streets. You're taking care of it, so we're gonna kind of encourage you almost. And then it of course makes me think of like today, and how I think we're struggling to remember where the church came from, and remember that we're supposed to be carrying the burdens of the world. And instead we've kind of like taking a back seat and just like, we'll let the government take care of it. We'll criticize the government for doing it, but then we'll also rely on them to do it.
I'll tell you a great example of that is food stamps. One thing I have seen in, there's not anything that a small percent of people don't take advantage of, So I'm not saying everybody in that system is just true and honorable. Yeah. But I will say that what I work with, they need that. Yeah. They use that. And when you take sometimes these single moms and they get a job at McDonald's, they'll lose it. Okay. Which makes 0 sense because then they have to quit the job at McDonald's to go back to the food stamps because it's more. So yes, you're 100% right. That is one of those areas. And I don't think as Christians that we mean to. It's one of those things that, like with me, I work in it every day, so I see it. If I didn't, I would probably have a total different mindset about it. Yeah. But when we share things on social media downing food stamps or welfare, to me that's it's not. It
comes from like a very privileged position.
Right. Because it's not a system. I was in it when I got divorced. It's not a system you want to be in. It's difficult to fill out. I mean, the paperwork, the first time I have a college degree, and the first time I filled out the paperwork, I was like, man, you need a doctorate to do all this. It was so confusing and so much of it. And nobody answering your phone calls. And so, you'd much rather just have the money and go to the grocery store. Yeah. It'd be much easier.
Yeah. Well, I've heard somebody say, too, like, sometimes the problem with, like, charity is you give somebody free food and they feel like less of a human. Mm-hmm. And so the idea that there's, of course, people who take advantage of stuff, but maybe the majority don't. And it takes the person in privilege to step down and get in someone else's shoes to understand what they're going through and why they're going through it and being understanding. Because even like growing up, my dad, he lost his job in 2008. And as a kid, you don't understand what all is going on. Like, you still have the house and you have all your toys. That's all that matters. But then going through that of like, dad had money, dad has no money, dad is doing all these odd jobs and I don't know where he works. And it gave me like a good perspective of like, oh, you really don't have control over sometimes even like your jobs and your finances. Of the world is crazy and there's ups and downs, and sometimes people just get caught in a bind because of things they can't control.
Right.
And so you can't say, well, you're lazy, you don't got a job. There's maybe more to it than that. Yeah.
And I think, like I said, I was in the same position of having to do, when I got a divorce, it was actually my pastor at the time in Quitman that said, you need to go on food stamps. I said, I am not going to do that. And he said, that's who it's for. It's who this is for. You're not going to be on it forever. It's for you to do to get through this time. And I look back on it sometimes, and I am so thankful, because if I hadn't, I know that sounds weird to be thankful for, but I wouldn't understand the process.
Yeah.
And also I'm able to use it when I'm talking, because a lot of times people, especially if they're people who aren't used to that system and something's happened and they might need to be on it, for me to be able to say, hey, I've done it before, I know how it works, I know you're embarrassed, but let's just get through this time with it. Use it for what it's for, and then, get back on your feet. Is usually helpful, puts people at ease.
Yeah. That's, I think, kind of a misconception, too, of like, I've heard this, and I definitely think it's wrong, but that people who work for the government and help people get the food stamps and whatnot, they want you to be on food stamps so that they keep their job.
Yeah. Well, Yeah, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole away from what you're really talking about, but there's the way it's set up to me, like I said, with the lady who quits.
Yeah.
I mean, goes to work at a McDonald's, has to end up quitting to get back on it.
Yeah.
And that's to me where the failure is. If it's maybe more of you get the job, we reduce it in half.
Yeah.
Until you're to a point, but it's like all or nothing.
Yeah.
You get completely taken off of it. So sometimes, I know a lot of times people think it's just the people being lazy.
Yeah.
And they want to stay on it, which I'm not saying that there aren't some that do that, I'm sure. But most of that system, it's just they're stuck in it.
Yeah.
Because they can't get past
that
income level to where, and I mean, now look at a rental house is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But it does go to the point of the single mom with kids doing that.
Yeah. I was meaning like to be in that type of job to where a lot of the stuff you see weighs heavy on you. It'd be crazy to think that you want for it to weigh heavy on you, and so you're like you are personally putting people in position to where they need the help and support. When in reality, it's like, no, I would much rather them like be able to succeed in life and thrive and get out of this system.
Yes.
I don't want them to be in the system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
But with the abortion conversation, there's been we talked about this a little bit before, but the Supreme Court just I don't even know all the terminology for it. I'm so out of it.
They overturned the Roe versus Wade.
Yes. And I ended up having to mute so many people off social media because I was just like, I don't want to see any of this. But what I did see was a lot of a critique against the church, because the critique would go, you don't care about kids in foster care, or you don't adopt kids, and you don't care about the single moms, and you're not helping them out, so you have no right to tell a mom not to have an abortion. And me and you talked about this before, of like, that can be a valid point of churches. There's a lot of churches that suck at taking care of their communities, and what the goal with this episode isn't to highlight maybe the pro-life movement's beliefs about abortion, or that we believe abortion is a sin or anything like that. It's more so to say maybe we can't force people, we can't change people's hearts with the law. We need to find other ways to be the church, and that sometimes we get caught up into the political world of our country and the divisiveness, and we miss where Christians really have an opportunity to shine and to be a light. I wrote a few years back, I was trying to work through this issue because I felt like I had gotten really like far right, and I was really harsh to a lot of people. And I was like, I want to understand why someone wouldn't believe what I believe, because I'm really struggling with this. And so I remember I came up with 2 lists, and it was like on the abortion issue, pro-choice and pro-life. And I tried to be gracious to both of them and be like, what's the good in both of them? And the thing that I ended up coming away with, which is more simple, but like, pro-choice people really want to care about the women, and the pro-life movement really wants to care about the babies. And so they both think they're doing what's right and good and helpful to society, but they're missing each other's points, and they're, instead of coming together and maybe finding a better solution, it's like
we're talking all over each other.
Yeah, we're ripping people apart, and we're demonizing, and we're casting out.
And like I said too, I would hope that this conversation we're having, if whoever hears that, because you are one of those people. What I really like about you, always have been, is that you, and I tend to gravitate towards people like this who really are. I know some people don't like the term open-minded, like that means you're okay. But you're willing to listen is basically what I think. And I feel like as Christians, we really need to listen to really what is being said, and do people have a valid point in some cases? And how can we show different?
Yeah.
Because one of the things, that I saw was, well, I hope the Christians are now going to start taking care of these women and doing things for these women. Okay. Well, do we support our pregnancy support center options now? Or are we expecting them just to get grants all the time? Do we support the Haven Battered Women's Shelter? Or do we just expect, well, they've got grants and they can take care of it themselves? So that was really questions I was, saying to myself. I support them for things that just because of work, things I know that they do. But, another one was, foster kids. And, some people are, and Lord knows everybody shouldn't be a foster parent. But there are still ways to support.
Yeah.
And when I say support, I don't mean that it all has to be financially. One of the things with the Haven recently, like they need, I think, towels, sheets, paper products. Yeah. These are things for the women that are living there. I mean, really think about it. Picking up a pack of toilet paper doesn't hurt anybody, to take by or do. So there are things, I think what I've always said since I got into Family Connection and really started looking at like programs and all these things that we do government-wise or community or whatever, the one thing they're always missing is a relationship. And a relationship takes time. And that's the one thing I see as human beings, even myself, sometimes don't think we have time for.
Yeah.
And that to make these changes in people, I mean, really even to lead somebody to the Lord you've got to build a relationship with them.
Yeah.
So it can't be you just walk up. I mean, I guess you can, but it's going to go better if you build a relationship.
Yeah. We had just, the episode on the LGBTQ is coming out this week. And I was editing this week, and that was one of the things we said was sometimes we assume that we'll convert people and they'll change overnight. And that's never how it works. And like, we should be our own greatest example of how long it takes. I've been a Christian 10 years and I'm still got a very long ways to go.
Yes,
and but yeah, building relationships takes time, and that's kind of why we even started the podcast. We wanted people to push people to take the time to have those conversations, to have conversations with people, and be like, yeah, it's okay. Like, this is normal. It's going to be long and drawn out, and you may have years where like you feel like you're just banging your head against the wall, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. Like that's part of it.
And these women, they need that love and that relationship, and building those. It can't be you have the baby and you're fine.
Yeah.
Bye. It's kind of like when I first started and had to say to church, giving somebody clothes and food and paying their power bill didn't fix them. It didn't make their life better. That is a good thing, don't get me wrong, but it does not put them on a new path or help them get out of poverty.
Yeah.
In fact, they've done many studies to show that really what you do, and I'm not saying this against food pantries. We have one at my church. I love it, and I hope it never goes away, or people that help with power bills, because you should. But when people are in poverty, what you did was you taught them that they go from crisis to crisis to crisis.
Yeah.
And you are one of their solutions to their crisis. So they gave me food for this, and then next month I'll come back for food for this. So anyway, the same thing with these moms. Once they have the baby, you just can't say, well, all right, they didn't have an abortion. The baby. No, it's okay. Because a lot of them still need that support.
Yeah. And Robbie had stole it and preached on it. But something I've been wrestling with a lot with doing the podcast is I want us to paint like a better picture of how you can do life, because I think the way Jesus does life is better. And I think going along with what you said, of it's not just we pay their power bill and that's it, but it's like, no, we want to cast a vision for a better way of doing life than you're doing it right now, so that you can, I'm not meaning it the way Joel Osteen means it, but like live your best life now. of God does want what's best for you. He doesn't want you to suffer, and like the thing I tell our youth a lot is God hates evil more than we do. And so whatever trauma you're going through, you can kind of rest back a little bit and say, well, thank God he hates it more, and he's fighting way more than I am. Mm-hmm. Of like, that's a really comforting thing. But the idea that even for these women who they feel like they're in a bind or feel like this is the only option, I feel like something the church needs to do is not just say, well, just don't abort it, but like, no, highlight the beauty in having the kid. Mm-hmm. Don't talk about it like it's a burden or a mistake or an issue, even if it was an accident.
Right. And that's another thing too, of when a young woman and man or whatever do not have the abortion, say they never even thought about it. But I've had friends tell me that they have left church in the past because they got pregnant in high school or whatever, and they were in the youth group and they got rid of them or told them they couldn't come back or whatever. So they haven't been back to church because of that. So we can't say in one breath that we're against abortion, but then in the other, we don't want you here because you got pregnant before you were married. Yeah. And I will say that was one thing, because I know you haven't brought it up yet, but so my oldest daughter got pregnant her senior year, and she wanted to have an abortion. And when the whole thing was because, or one of the major things was of how the church, the community would feel about her. Mm-hmm. And really before our church even, I don't think our church knew that she had gone through the abortion thought process. They just knew she was pregnant, and people started coming to her and telling her stories of when that they had their child when they were in high school and got married in high school, and she had no idea because like one was a school teacher, and she was like, oh, so it is possible like to still live your life, and you're not a horrible person. And then they actually, and this brought this mama to tears, they had a baby shower for her. And I think that's huge for a church. Yeah. I think that's, because even myself never thought of them doing it. Like, I wasn't going to be mad that they didn't do it. Yeah. I just thought, well, that won't happen because you don't do that. Yeah. And so when they did, and even the preacher's wife bought her a gift, and I just went to her and just started bawling, crying, because for me as a mother, what you did was you showed her the love of Jesus. That's what I was crying about. Is that you took a person who felt like she was the greatest sinner on the planet and you let her know Jesus still loved her. And that was just a huge turning point for me, because I'll be completely honest, would I have had that same thought process had that not happened to my child? I don't know. And I hate that bad things have to happen, or things like that have to happen in my life to get my attention sometimes. But I don't know.
Well, I think that was something I was thinking about on the way up here was I reference a lot of books. I'm a nerd. But I'm reading this book called Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. He's not a Christian. He's like in Stoic philosophy. But he was talking about how sometimes our greatest lessons in life come from the greatest challenges and the pain points. Mm-hmm. And my thought process then leaves the book and it's like, yeah, that's like a Christian idea of you have Joseph in Genesis suffering and like being falsely accused for a crime, sold into slavery by his family. They say he's dead, and all these terrible things happen. And then in the end, he's like, "What man intended for evil, God intended for good." And then you see that common theme all throughout the Bible of like Christians taking something that seems horrible to everybody else, and they're saying, "Yeah, but God, He's doing something good in it." Of like even the idea of Jesus' death.
With David too.
Yeah. But like with Jesus' death, that is a terrible thing that happened. Of like a man was brutally murdered, and yet that is like that's our victory.
Right.
And that's like we have emblems of it hanging around our houses and our churches, and it's a point of celebration for us. But it's because we believe that God is doing something even in the mess and even in like the tough parts of life, which then
that's really good.
We I remember my sister when she got pregnant out of wedlock. We grew up in church, and I remember that being the eye-opening moment for me of I love my sister, and I know like how special she is and how amazing she is, and then seeing her go down a path that the church didn't agree with, but then this thing happened where she gets pregnant and she's gonna have a kid. She's gonna have Carlin, and me being like, yeah, but like that's a great thing. Like, yeah, maybe the situation isn't ideal. Maybe this wasn't how it was supposed to happen, in air quotes. But God is still blessing her with a gift, because as Christians we believe children are a gift.
Right.
And so
my thing too is knowing, just like her daughter and then my granddaughter, was we don't know what God's plan is for those children.
Yeah.
And how can you take that away?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just couldn't. And I'll say with Elizabeth's story, and I know this wasn't really your probably the whole point of me coming, but when she first told me that she was pregnant, I was like, okay, we can deal with it. We'll get through this. But then she said, no, I don't want to have it. And I think that was where probably most moms would have gotten mad about. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it was something like, okay, we can handle this. We got enough support and family that we can do it. But the abortion, no, I couldn't grasp that. And like I said earlier, with how I do with work, sometimes I went into 100% mama mode of I'm fixing to fix this. So I tried talking, that didn't work. And then I knew Options Now in Valdosta, and that they'll do an ultrasound. So I thought, I'll get her to the ultrasound and she'll change her mind.
Yeah.
So we go in, and she goes back there and then calls me back later and said that she wasn't far enough along for the ultrasound. So when she and I get to the car, and another thing they do in there is they talk to you about your other options. They go through all the options with you. Anyway, we get in the car. She said, okay, will you call and make the appointment for me for the abortion? And I said, but they said you could come back in 2 weeks. I know. And I said that I would, but I'm not doing it. I'm going. And I remember vividly in my mind saying to God, I totally set this up for you. I know I can't even hardly say it without laughing, but that was my thought. I set this up for you. Are you crazy? Like, why didn't you just let this happen? But, so I wouldn't call about the abortion. Anyway, long story short, she got there. She actually went to the clinic. If anybody ever, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but if you want to watch or hear the story, Options Now has like a video, like a YouTube video on their story, and has them talking about being in the clinic and all that. Her appointment was at 10. I know it's referenced several different times in the Bible, but I don't know exactly to pinpoint, but this is what I thought about when you're praying. Oh my gosh, Austin, I just lost my word. Praying without ceasing. Yes. So I was in my bedroom, sweatpants, just couldn't get out of the bed. I would kneel beside the bed and pray, get back in the bed and cry. Kneel beside the bed and pray, get back in the bed and cry. And so their appointment was at 10. It was like 2 o'clock that afternoon before she got out of there. And while they were there, they had decided not to. I think on the way there, they had decided not to, but when they went in to do the actual, she wanted the ultrasound when she got there. And they won't let you, they turn the volume down so you can't hear a heartbeat. And then they just take a picture of it. And the dad is not allowed in the room. So all that stuff was very, she didn't like or anything. But I thought it was, my point with all that was God showed me in that nobody was in control but him.
Yeah.
We all know that God could have fixed it at the Options Now clinic.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have ended it. He could have ended it at any time. He could have stopped her from this at any time. But it was done at that point. And that's why I said to you earlier that no, I am, I guess you would say pro-life. I don't even like pro-life or pro-choice if you want to know the truth. But I'm not for abortion.
Yeah.
But I don't think we give God as much credit as we give the law.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that's great.
And that right there was my sole point was I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, no matter how much everybody was trying to stop her, we weren't, and I felt bad. I mean, I learned the biggest lesson of my life that my last resort was praying the day of.
Yeah.
I did a lot of work up until that point. And then I did that. But anyway, so that, I guess that's why with the, for me, I wish that as Christians we took it, we put more of our faith in God when it comes to abortion and helping the women. Yeah. And even, when the Roe versus Wade was overturned, I talked to Elizabeth. And that's my oldest. So, a little backstory. She did go back to Options Now. They worked with her all the way through. They did ultrasounds. They do classes with them. So they're like parenting classes, and you get vouchers. And I don't know if you know, they have like this, it's called Repeat Boutique. Yeah. It's like a thrift store. So they can take their vouchers to Repeat Boutique and buy stuff for the baby. So they did all the classes, got all the stuff they offered. So she loved the place. Ended up, in fact, she got a scholarship from CareSource. and I'm sorry if I got that wrong, but I think that's the name of it, that really covers like all the parent places like Options Now, pregnancy clinics.
Yeah.
Then when she moved to Athens, she worked for a pregnancy support clinic there. So she's very much for them. But when I called her and talked to her about it, her thing was that, first of all, these centers, they need the Christians really backing them now, because they're going to have more women coming in.
Yeah.
Like Options Now, and all these places would have more women. So giving to them, and again, it doesn't just have to be financially, volunteering, running in their races they have, whatever, fundraisers, like she was saying, was vitally more important, because her thing from going through it and from working at both was seeing what you said earlier, was the women needing so much support. Not that the baby is not important, but after that baby, before that baby and after that baby, supporting, giving them the support they need to be able to succeed.
Yeah.
And she just had her second, and we went up because, Grandma's got to go stay there for a week. And the whole time I was there, it's me, her, she's married now, so, and then the other baby, my husband, my other daughter, and we're still all running around like crazy, trying to make sure she has enough to eat and changing baby's diapers. I was looking at all the people that it took, and I mean, it really made me sad thinking about the ladies I serve and the women in our community, and I think so many of them do this by themselves. And even I had forgotten how hard that is. And I feel like the times you're talking about, and even probably our grandparents and great-grandparents, was a lot more time of going to visit and helping new families when it's a big transition for people. So when a lot of times when they're giving up these babies or want to give up these babies, they don't have the support, financial or family. So I don't know. That was just I thought about that a lot while I was there.
It makes me think about how another book I read was Take Back Your Family by Jefferson Bethke.
Now, do you read all these books at the same time?
No.
So you read one and then go to the next one?
Try to. Some get boring, so I just give up and move on. But Take Back Your Family was an interesting one, because he talked about how individualized our culture is today, and how that's not always been the case. And that's why, one of the things he pointed out was, when you read the Bible, you hear them say, God, the Father of God, Yahweh, the God of your father Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And the reason that was so impactful was because it'd be like going to some of these other countries where families are more united. They'd hear their grandfather's name and be like, oh yeah, that's my granddad's God, that's my uncle's God, and it became way more personal and touching to them, and it gave them more credit.
Right.
But for us, we're so individualized, and we don't do family like that anymore. I know families who they don't eat together. You move into a whole nother state to get away from your family. Our culture today is so, we're not family oriented, and we do stuff on our own so much that then when you have a pregnancy come about, there's probably tons of people who are doing it alone, don't have the support system, and I can see why there'd be a lot of fear in having a kid. Thankfully, I'm blessed to have a family who who is really tight, and then a church family too. Like you had mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, church family's huge.
Yeah. So I know when it comes time for me to have a kid that I have a whole squad that's going to take care of me. And they'll make it a whole lot easier. But then to realize that we live in a culture that doesn't think like that, and there's a lot of people who don't have the church family or the family structure to help them take care of them. In my mind, that's where, like, okay, as a church, we need to be finding these people and surrounding them and being there for them. Even I just thought about they came to the church for a little bit when they were stationed here, but they were his name's Tristan. He worked for the Air Force, but their family was in Texas, and they had a kid here, and they're like doing everything on their own. Like they didn't know where Nashville was. They lived in Valdosta. They didn't even know where they were going when they started coming to church here.
Right.
But yeah, just how like and that happened during COVID, and so they were really alone. Like nobody's coming near you. And so again, it reminds me of like how.
And when you think of
scary,
all of it, it's really pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it's sad in the church because what is the percentage of people who volunteer? They say like 20. Is it? I don't know
the exact
it's
quote.
A low
it's very
percentage.
Low. It's like 10% do the work and the rest.
Yeah.
They don't.
It's a low percentage. So if you're looking at that percentage that do the work in the church or just running the church, whether it's cleaning, turning on the lights, having Sunday school, singing in the choir, whatever. Sometimes you're looking at those same people are the ones that would jump up to go help with people in the community, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So it's a lot on a small group. That's I think that's why I would love to see more want to see it. I think sometimes we don't want to see it.
Yeah, it's easier.
That it's out there. And I'm not saying it's not me. And I'm the very same one too that's like, oh, I don't have time for that right now. Because we're selfish.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons why I wanted you on. It was I don't know what the heck to do. I don't even know where you'd go to find out what to do. But I knew that you work with single moms a lot. You work in this area, and so you're like the perfect person to have on the podcast to talk about it, because then not only can I selfishly get the information, but then we can get this to our church, and for our church, where we definitely fit that statistic too of like the 10% do the work. Of we can say, well, maybe you don't want to be in the worship band, but you can do this. Of like that's the beauty of the church is you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. Maybe this is where your heart really is at.
Right.
So we're going to encourage you, go after it. Here's Miss Amy's giving you all the information. Run after it. And,
right.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, right here in Nashville, you have it's a family connection, but they have a different name, and she's going to be mad at me because I've forgotten what the name. It's where the Yes Center is. I don't know if you know where the Yes Center is, but
Yes,
YES. But they do a lot of parenting classes, so and they do those for mostly moms. So I know they have volunteers. I know that they feed them sometimes, so of taking food. But honestly, Elizabeth was the one who really put in my mind that I've even taken back to our church is make sure support the places that are already supporting women.
Yeah.
If that women and children. So when you're looking at the Haven, and there are men that are experience domestic violence. So, but when the majority that are staying there are women. But finding out what their needs are, volunteering for them. And I think sometimes too, if we do more things like that, that there will be people in our churches that start building relationships.
Yeah.
With people, just from going out and doing, because, and this is a little off subject too, but I don't know if you've ever done the Bridges Out of Poverty. If you've ever read that, and I cannot remember the name of the lady who wrote that book. But it's very interesting because our churches are run by the middle class standards. So me and you run by middle class standards, whether we realize it or not. They give you a little test. This is this was so eye-opening to me. They give you a poverty test, a middle class test, and a wealth test. The middle class test, you're just, yeah, I do that. I know how to do that. Middle class one would actually say, you would check what you know how to do. Do you know how to enroll your child at the rec department? Okay. And I was like, there are people that don't know how to enroll their child at the rec department. Okay. So then the wealth one would be, 4 languages.
Definitely not that.
Yeah. I mean, it was things. I knew more from the poverty and the middle class than I knew from the wealth. You know how to enroll. I don't know. It was something about private schools, but it really took a lot of what we just take for granted, and there was some in the poverty, like you know how to open a box without a pair of scissors. I was like, yeah, I know how to do that. I can get me a knife. So there were also things like what restaurants to go find food from in the garbage out back. Like,
oh, wow.
So it was eye-opening about what things I do that I take for granted that everybody may know how to do. So it's the same way schools and churches are also built the same way, where we work on, like I said, with poverty, they're basically in a survival mode all the time. So sometimes, for example, in poverty, we can, families that we work with, we can get very aggravated that they missed an appointment. Well, their mind is not on me. They don't take out a calendar and write that down or put it in their phone or hang it on the refrigerator, because they're trying to figure out how they're paying rent next month or where they're going to get the baby diapers. So that is where sometimes our first place we start is just trying to get you out of your survival, where where you're safe, and now we can start working on helping.
Wow. Okay. Dang. Yeah.
And a lot of that just comes from what you grew up in.
Yeah.
So it's what you know. It's what your normal is.
Yeah.
And that's where sometimes I'll relate different. It's good too, because I'll have different people come in and work in the office, and they're like, why are you letting them do that? They've been doing that 2 or 3 times, and I'll always, well, they probably didn't know better. We haven't taught them yet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It kind of, it just takes me back to like the, I guess the goal with this episode of when it comes to the lady who wants to have an abortion, of we want to push especially our people here at the Bridge, to take on God's character. And we've said this a few episodes now, of God is slow to speak and quick to listen, slow to get angry. And we should probably put that way more into practice and take on that character of and being understanding to the young lady might just be in survival mode. Of, especially as a guy, like watching my sister go through pregnancy, it was eye-opening because I'm like, I don't understand any of this. And there's so much more that goes into this than I could have ever even thought of. It's nothing like the movies.
No, not at all.
And I remember even she posted or like shared something about like postpartum depression. I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought you had the kid and you're good, like that's it. But then understanding, like she had a few her lady friends comment on it of like, yeah, I'm going through this too right now. And I was like, this seems like an important thing that as a church leader I should know, that you know, most churches are made up in majority of women, and yet I don't think we're doing a great job of taking care of them a lot of times, of, you know, like
yeah, I felt that way again this past week with my daughter. And I mean, I've had 3 kids, and I guess I looked at it totally different this time in seeing, she deals with some depression. So we worried about, I wouldn't say worry, but we watch her better.
Yeah.
Because there's all kinds of things happening to that woman's body. And then you've got a baby that's, you know, basically wants to eat every 2 to 3 hours. So your sleep pattern is not good for a long time. So yeah, I think that's another big area they're looking at when they're talking about, you know, supporting the female and supporting her mental health. And that can be done just by simply bringing some food by.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't know where I heard this or where it came from, but I'm sure there are still countries that still do this. But, and like you and I said, they probably used to do it here long years ago. But where the women, when you had that baby, they're washing your clothes, cooking your, you know, everybody's jumping in there to help you. Where we're like, I mean, sometimes even, I mean, I could say even if I had the baby, like, okay, y'all need to leave, you know. We're all more for being by ourselves too much, and not, and also, you know, well, I don't need anybody, I can handle it, kind of thing too. So it all really, I guess, needs to be a mindset change. But yeah, I completely.
That's funny you mentioned that though, because I was listening to a Tim Keller sermon on marriage this morning, and that was one of the things he brought up was the issue him and his wife had with how they were raised, and how he was raised that the wife comes home and cleans up the house and the man just gets to recline in the chair. And I love
listening to you.
Yeah. And then his wife had the total opposite experience of like, it's if the kid poops in the diaper, it's whoever sees it first. And he saw it first one time, and he was like, hey, Kathy, come get this. She's like, finders keepers. And he's like, that's not how this works. And that would, yeah. But then, man, it was the other thing that came to mind when you were talking was how as Christians we have this idea that the Christian life is a constant like dying to self and being self-sacrificial and being like Jesus, in that like Jesus constantly lived his life trying to love others and going out of his way to do that, and being okay with being inconvenienced and uncomfortable. And I think more so like in the Western culture, we forget that. I was telling my boss this morning, like, it's really easy for us to just do the verse of the day on our Bible app and be like, yeah, that's my faith. And it's like, no, your faith requires a lot of hard work and discipline, and not like some type of like legalism, but it's, you are a happier person when you are serving others. Like there's psychology behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that the founder of our faith lived his life that way, and we say we're going to follow him, but then we don't, like, it just doesn't make sense, because it's like, our founder did it, and psychology is backing it, saying his life was probably really happy, even though, like, he suffered, of, like, even after he suffered, like, he comes out and he's like, yo, I'm still going to help people. And it's just amazing, because then it's like a challenge for us as a church to be like, okay, well, then we're going to live like Jesus did and live self-sacrificially. We're going to allow ourselves to be inconvenienced, be uncomfortable, to do whatever it takes to help the people in our community, even if they're not a Christian, which is a problem with some people, apparently.
Yes.
Jesus constantly was helping non-Christians.
I know. I just finished going through the book of Matthew, and when you can know all these verses and know all these stories, and then one time you'll read them and everything's just, you see totally different.
Yeah.
And everything you were just saying, I mean, and some is exactly what as I was reading through it. I mean, it's like, he would try to get away. He would know to get away. And then he would show compassion.
Yeah.
He would come back. And then feeding everybody. It was the first time that I thought of that we would be like, okay, there's way too many people. They can figure something out.
Yeah.
They can get something somewhere. Let's just do our little service and then let them go find somewhere to eat.
Yeah.
I mean, and then this is, I probably shouldn't,
go for it.
Anyway, I'm just saying, the disciples following him, I mean, I'm just sometimes thinking that must be how he feels about me. Please, could y'all just help me a little bit? Because, but he was there. Well, it also reminded me too of this one church I was at one time, and if anybody's listening and recognizes what church, I'm not, this could happen literally at any church, so I'm not talking about them. But I was in there, and I was towards the back, and there was a single female with 4 young children. She did not attend church there. And I'll just go ahead and say, like we all know, I'm sure everybody knows, when you know somebody is at church, when I'm talking about the middle class thing, that doesn't fit in.
Yeah.
And you kind of know they don't fit in. And they don't ever come normally. And again, this was fitting into those middle class standards. Her kids were crying. She didn't know about nursery. She didn't know about children's church. She doesn't know those things because, again, those are things we take for granted of knowing. So anyway, I did not think I knew her, but mom to mom was just feeling bad. I was having that, okay, if I didn't know anybody and my kids were crying, I would just be embarrassed. So I'll go by there and help her.
Yeah.
So I go back there because I was going to tell her where everything was, and she says to me, hey, Miss Amy, you know me. Well, come to find out, she was somebody that we were going to work with, but we had not been able to get in touch with her. So I had talked to her on the phone, but I didn't know her face. Anyway, I asked her if I could take her kids to the nursery and everything, and she was like, yes. And so I took them back there, and then I went back to her because, number one, I did not want her to think that she couldn't get to her children, or where they were. So I just went and sat with her. This is what was interesting to me and really convicted me big time. Because again, not talking about this church. You'll know when you hear this that this could happen anywhere.
Yeah.
The sermon was about the woman at the well. It makes me teary every time I think about it. The story was he was preaching about the woman at the well. And he was talking about Jesus stopping to talk, the time that he spent with the woman at the well. And how we should all be like Jesus with the woman at the well. And this church, Everybody, amen. Some even put their hands up. And I got so emotional back there because we were on the back row. And I thought, the woman at the well is here. She's here. Yeah. And not one of you know it or recognize it. And again, I just think it's a picture of how we all are.
Yeah.
The woman at the well is right in front of us most of the time. And we're too busy when we're listening to that, just like you were saying, go look at us. Yes, we are like that. We would love the woman at the well. Amen. Great sermon.
Yeah.
When the woman at the well's right there.
Yeah.
And, you know, and again, I feel like I'm not trying, but we can do that at church too. When the kids are crying, why are the kids crying? Does the lady know where the nursery is? I can't hear the sermon. You know,
yeah.
Well, we've all been there. We've all done it. I mean, I'll even speak. Me and my husband have done it. Like, who is that kid? You know?
Yeah.
But so it's just. I think that we all need, even myself, sometimes we just have to stop and take perspective.
Yeah.
And remember that we do have to be inconvenienced.
Yeah.
And if these are the things that are important, we know are important to Jesus. I just feel like so often we love Jesus. We tell everybody we love Jesus, but we have a really hard time doing anything like he would do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything like he would do. But we'll gladly share on Facebook how much of a Christian we are.
Oh, yeah. Man. This has been really good. Really good. So just to wrap up, and I know we've probably hit on it a little bit, but what would be some like application points of like, you can go do this to help a woman in crisis, or trying to figure out what to do with pregnancy, or even like your situation of my daughter's thinking about having an abortion. How do I love her well? Like, what's...
Well, the ones of like, what can you do if you're just in church and wondering, hey, what could I do? Anything with options now. Like I said, here in Nashville, I could tell you places here that work with parents, even your DFACs. There is a call to care that helps with foster kids. There's a lot of things that if it's money you want to put on it, or if you want to purchase some stuff, or if you want to donate your clothes, or like one time at my house, I realized I had like 36 forks in my drawer from so many different houses and places I've lived. I thought, we never have this many people here. So I took the forks out. I kept 12 for us, and I gave the rest to one of the ladies that we work with that's moving into her new house. You know, there's really little things like that. She was so super excited about having some forks because she just didn't have that.
Yeah.
So there's little things like that it doesn't have to be something big, extravagant. I guess this is one of the things that we're doing at Southside, but we're actually going to have a baby shower for another girl who is not, who's pregnant, and she's not married, and she's not a Christian. So, and it was from a conversation like this, and after what happened with Elizabeth, that we made the decision to do that. But whether it's at the church that you're doing, or if you want to do it at your house, still, and we all know somebody. It wouldn't take you much to know somebody, and even if it was somebody that you knew whose child or you heard out lived far away, send them something on Amazon. Yeah. Everybody can do that easy. Everybody. But if you're the parent that was in my shoes, I would say love them, number one, because they're scared. And if for me, it was that shock of, you want to have an abortion? Like, that's the last thing I would think you would think about. We need to remember, it was an eye-opener as a Christian parent, that sometimes all the stuff you preach about not doing, and that's wrong, and that God doesn't want you to do, but you didn't talk enough about how he loves you.
Yeah.
So there was so much fear from her. And so it changed my conversation with my other two girls. But I would say what I did wrong is the abortion thing sent me over the edge, and I was really upset and sometimes would not even speak to her. And there were other members of my family who stepped in for me and told and just showed her love and listened to her.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, if it can't be you, sometimes it can't be you when you're the parent and all the emotion. But to make sure that they do have somebody. It was my parents, actually, that really stepped in. Yeah, it was a shocker, actually. That was mean. It wasn't a shocker, Mom and Dad. Y'all are wonderful people. Yeah. But they would not have done that for me, but they did it for her. I guess that's what you do with grandkids. But also go to Options Now, or take your child to Options Now. Or one of the reasons that we share our story is so that if it does happen to somebody, that you would know, hey, Amy's daughter, this happened to, because Lizzie would talk to anybody about it, and share her experience, and because she did that when she was working. So I don't know if any of those were good answers.
Those are great answers. Perfect. Yeah.
And pray first.
Yeah. Thank you, Jesus. Yeah. All right. That's it.
All right.
This has been another episode of Into the Fray. We want to thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast on your podcast feed. We will see you next week for another conversation.